Hello and welcome to the Like a Pro podcast. My name is John Allen Mollenhauer. My friends call me John Allen or by my initials Jam, and I hope you will too. This is the podcast where you learn the performance and lifestyle strategies of healthy, high achieving people who thrive. Today, I just want to share a little bit about the biggest discoveries from the COVID-19 shutdown and how you can change, improve, and optimize the way you live as a result. So, first things first, we just went through 3 months of shutdown. I still to this day cannot believe that the world literally shut down, especially in America. It's almost hard to believe that America actually shut down. I mean, I oftentimes joke that America is a corporation first and then a country. And but to actually think that it was mandated that businesses shut down still to this day blows my mind. And we are seeing the impact of this COVID-19 period, not just on lives, but on livelihoods. We are in effect in a sort of pseudo depression. I mean, there are more people today than there were back in the Depression. So when you have nearly 40 million people out of 320 million people out of jobs, um, a lot of people aren't feeling that if they're part of that roughly 60 or 70 or 80% that's still working. But 20% of people are somewhere around that number are really not working right now. So it's a really strange time period. And I don't believe that the economic effect is going to be felt of COVID-19 still yet for another month or two. But it is going to peak its ugly head. So we've been shut down for 3 months. Um, and I started off with that first point because you could think, wow, this was all bad. People died, 110,000 people, and people did die, and 110,000 people died. Now, whether or not they died of the coronavirus by itself, it's irrelevant. We know that coronavirus was involved in it, and by being involved in it, whether they had a pre-existing condition or not, coronavirus was enough to kick them over the edge. Therefore, 110,000 people died of coronavirus. And the debate's been raging about that, and it is what it is. But lives were lost, and we have to never forget that lives were lost during this time period. I mean, those numbers by no means compare to regular flu rates. And I, for one, had coronavirus. I got it in March. Literally, I was one of the first people to actually get the virus here in the US, and it was no fun. Man, I couldn't smell. I was on an inhaler for better part of a week. I was praying to the cough syrup gods. I just couldn't imagine any more fluid coming out of my body. I lost a lot of weight. Um, and between that and my business being shut down, I run a small chain of centers, performance recovery and lifestyle optimization centers. They got shut down. And big impact financially, etc. Now, I tell you those two things to start, but when you're really talking about some of the biggest discoveries that I've made from the COVID-19 shutdown, I'm going to start with the first silver lining. By the way, before I get into these, I hope you fared well. I hope that your family has fared well through this time period. I hope you're doing well and that you are use this time wisely, um, and are gearing up for all of the challenges ahead, good, bad, and indifferent. Whatever that challenge may be for you, I hope you're geared up for it and ready to roll as the economy starts to make its way back. So, biggest discovery number one is that people needed a break. I throughout this entire time period, even though it was having a huge impact on me and getting sick and on my business by being shut down, there was a big part of me that was like, ah, oh, wow, the entire marketplace just shut down. And I actually, part of me was loving it. Now, I know it had a tragic background, and I know I had gotten sick, and I could have, it could have been a lot worse for me, but, I had a very healthy immune system, and I live a very healthy lifestyle at the base. But I was overexerted at the time and I was worn down at the time that COVID hit, because we were in the middle of a grand opening, and I must have shaken over 1,000 people's hands in the month leading up to the outbreak. Um, and and I understand that was really impactful for me. I understand it was impactful for a lot of people. But let's just for a second put that aside. There were silver linings, still are silver linings to this whole time period. And the first of which was that, if you're gonna get out of the game, it's a lot easier for a person to leave a game when other people are leaving the game too. Like when the whole game gets called. You don't feel like you're missing out. And, I'm not someone who falls for FOMO, fear of missing out often, yet I'm like any other human being. When the rest of the world is cranking, I want to be cranking too. And, in general, otherwise, I certainly have the ability to step out of the game. So do you. But in general, we don't want to be out for 2.5 months while the rest of the world is working. I mean, that would really have a pretty big impact on you. Now, I know that people were look, you know where the world we live in. The world is so fast paced. We know what technology does. We know how impactful the 24/7 society has been on people's energy levels, their stress levels, their health levels, etc. I believe people needed a break. I believe people needed a break. Like, why weren't people in the streets just saying, we've got to get back to work? Now, you would say, well, John Allen, they actually were. You're right, they were. People were in the streets saying we've got to get back to work, and a lot of those people were people who, whose jobs, they didn't have salaries. They were gig workers, hourly workers, or entrepreneurs, people who are floating the whole ship. And like people like myself, like we needed to get back to work. But these outbreaks of protest were fairly small. And why do I think that they were fairly small? I think people actually enjoyed having a break from a 2.5 month break from the pace of life that many people have been engaged with for years. And it was unprecedented. I actually interviewed a lot of people during this time, and not one person ever said to me, God, I wish I was able to keep the same pace I was doing 6 weeks ago. Right? It's part of the reason why I teach performance lifestyle for a living and help people make lifestyle changes to live a healthy, driven life instead of the performance addicted life that we hear about so much today. Maybe not necessarily in those terms, but that's the reason why we hear about exhaustion and fatigue and the people being overweight, coping with stress in ways that create more stress, the poor health that's happening in America, and this epidemic and that epidemic. And I'm not talking viruses, I'm talking about health epidemics, because you can only keep a population going so long, so fast, for so long before they start to break down. And the only way they can cope with stress is not by getting 8 hours of sleep, but by eating and consuming media and keeping themselves stimulated and pills and all and the like. So when you give them a chance to actually say, oh my God, hi, little 2.5-year-old at home. I happen to have a 2.5-year-old at home, and I spent more time with her in the last 2.5 months than I have in a long time. I mean, amazing experience. I spent more time with my wife. I spent time with, building our relationship. I got even more sleep. I was able to do some things on the weekends. And mind you, this was no vacation for me. I worked the entire time. Even when I was sick, I worked because we needed to learn about the PPP and the EIDL. That was the economic relief and the impact of all this. I mean, again, this was unprecedented. And I'll bet this is true for you too. I bet we're working through the entire time. Yet, because most people were working from home, I mean, I'm talking about people from Wells Fargo. I mean, I remember calling a Wells Fargo person and I had the dog barking in the background. I mean, that's unprecedented. So I think that this break was really, really significant. And I think a lot of people needed it. Now, I got sick in the first 2 weeks of this epidemic, this breakdown. And the second thing that I learned was that, health is the only solution. From minute one in the doctor's office, I went to the hospital. I came down with symptoms on roughly the 18th of March of 2020. Um, by a few days later, 5 days later, I was in the hospital, and I took the test, and 7 days later, I actually got the solution when I was on my way out. But I mean, I got the diagnosis when I was on my way out because the test response was almost 8 days. Um, but from minute one in the doctors were saying health is the only solution, not a vaccine, not hydrochloroquine, not any drug, not experimental drug. I would venture to say that a lot of people died in this time period from the drugs themselves, combined with their pre-existing condition, combined with the impact of the virus. Um, and that's a big thing. I mean, I'm really sad about that. But health is the only solution. And I was told that by allopathic doctors who would normally want to test and give you drugs to solve your problem. And even they knew that health was the only solution to this. The medication and the inhaler and things that I use to help me breathe, in during week one, that's emergency medical care. And that's everybody who's in the know knows that emergency medical care is something that you need when you use when you need it, right? But the only solution is health, and health is produced by the way you live. So you have to change, improve, and optimize your lifestyle in order for you to get that outcome. Everyone's going to get COVID virus probably at some point. That's the general consensus. The World Health Organization is saying that these masks, there's only a certain mask, one that completely fits around your mouth, and literally is like skin tight, actually prevents you from putting out droplets. But there's just so many holes to the whole mask reality that it's not really going to prevent the spread. So at the time of this audio, the I guess the virulence, if you will, of this virus has gone down dramatically, and people are coming back. And I've been spending a lot of time outside. I hope you have been too. And about 50% of the population is wearing um, the masks. And who knows where this is going to go? Who knows what's going to happen in the fall? I don't know. But all I know is one thing: health is the only solution. You've got to make sure that you maintain a robust immune system, that you stay healthy, and that you stay resilient. And you've got to put the drivers in place that are necessary, the lifestyle drivers that are in place that are necessary for that to happen. If you're caught, even the way I was, I mean, a lot of people were blown away. They're like, John Allen, you got COVID-19. How did you do? You're the one guy who teaches optimal living. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I've made all the lifestyle changes, at least the big heavy duty ones already in my life. I improve as a status quo, and I'm really in the world of optimization. I'm like the Usain Bolt who's trying to shave 1/10 of a point off of his 10-second 100, right? That's the space in which I live. Yet I got worn down, heavily worn down in the months leading up to COVID-19 outbreak, and I believe that was one of the reasons why I came down with it, because I was wiped out tired doing a grand opening for a chain of centers, as I mentioned earlier. And it should have happened in 2019, but for legal and financial reasons, we had to postpone it. And when we did, we had to do it in a very short period of time to get it launched. And I had a world-class speaker coming in, and we just had to do too much work in too short a period of time. And that impacted my energy level, despite all the amazing principles and practices that I live by. It didn't matter. When you overexert your energy, I can promise you your immune system strength is going to get depleted. So, the third big discovery out of this time period was that you really can't boost your immune system. I mean, I kind of knew that, but it's the semantics here is really, really important. You don't really boost your immune system. Your immune system it's just there. You don't just touch your immune system. It's it's T cells, it's antibodies, it's cytokines. The three levels: your innate immune system, your adaptive immune system, excuse me, and what's called your tertiary immune system. There are three different levels to your immune system, and it touches like literally every aspect of your of the way you live. So you just don't boost your immune system through supplements or some kind of drug or chemical. You have to optimize the way you live to make sure that your body has the capacity and the function to respond. And as I proved to you just with my previous story, you can, once you get, the number one thing you got to pay attention to when it comes to your immune system is you can't live a depleting way of life. When you go through, everybody goes through depleting periods. Hopefully you don't go through such a period that's prolonged during a uh, pandemic outbreak like I went through. But just in general, you've got to keep your energy relatively high. You've got to manage your energy really well. And part of that is, it's not just about sleep and rest and recovery. You got to manage your outside world, which was not something I did really well in this particular instance, because I shouldn't have had that much work to do in such a short period of time, which no matter how well I lived, wasn't going to protect me from. I was going to have to do more work in any given day. And your lifestyle and literally any aspect of your lifestyle is not going to help you recover from that. So even the best athletes in the world, people who live, and other healthy, high achieving people who live what we call performance lifestyles. It's a step beyond living a healthy lifestyle. Um, it, their lifestyle, the way they live, is not going to outpace if they tried to play 3 football games in one week. That's they have very choreographed lives, and they are very keen not to overexert, because overexertion is the scourge of the earth, right? Because nothing functions well when that's going on. So you don't boost your immune system. You boost your performance, and the way you boost your performance is through lifestyle. The way you boost your performance is through lifestyle. So when your immune system is strong, that's a key indicator of how well you're performing, because your immune system is strong, right? Or vice versa. When your immune system is strong, you're going to perform better as a person, because you're not going to be distracted and held back by viruses and bacteria and all this other kind of stuff, right? So you've got to be aware and pay attention to this and boost your performance. To boost your performance, you've got to have lifestyle factors in place that are going to make sure that all of your risk factors are mitigated. So a next big idea is that you can choose the way you live more so than ever before. I think what a big silver lining here is that during this time period, people learned that, hey, wait a second, maybe I don't need to be going into the city 5 days a week, or working full steam 6 days a week, maybe even 7. Um, I think it gave people a chance to stop and realize, wow, I, to process, to get off the treadmill and go, woo, man, I've been keeping that up for a long period of time. One of the things that I think is interesting, we're going through this in one of my companies, um, that, how fast are people going to come back? I think people are going to be slow to actually come back in certain sectors. The absolute essentials, the things that keep the lights on, people are going to come back to. But a lot of people, for things that are nice to haves, even if they may be essential, right? They don't shut the lights off, literally, um, you know, biologically or economically. Um, People are going to be slow to coming back to, because of maybe disruption in their life through economics, and therefore anybody doing business with them, they're going to have to re-earn that business. 2, they may realize they may not want to do such things. They're not so caught up, so they're being very discerning as to what they add back into their lives. And 3, a lot of people don't want to get as busy as they were before, and therefore I think it's going to have an impact. I think a lot of people have gotten, even though there's not a week went by since day one that I was not active at least 40 hours a week, I wasn't doing 60 or 70-hour work weeks the way I normally do. I'm an entrepreneur. And for those of you listening who are like, wow, I'm not taking advice from this guy. I mean, he's talking about living balanced and healthy. That's why I don't live a healthy lifestyle. My lifestyle, health is a given for me. I live a performance lifestyle. So everything I do is healthy. But in a performance lifestyle, we acknowledge the fact that you work all the time and you take time out for everything else. The whole definition of balance completely changes when you're dealing with reality, right? Which is, the world is, the market is always going. And especially if you're a business owner, but even if you're a corporate exec, it doesn't matter. You know, work is work is work. I don't care if you're a mom with a part-time job. Work is work is work. And it goes on throughout the day in our waking hours. And you have to take time out of that to take care of yourself and your body and your life. But we work all the time. But in actual, like, defined hours of work, I work at least a 60-hour work week. And that's with two kids and the like. And my wife, my partner, um, maybe even a third one day. But I'm talking to my kids. So it's we work a lot. Like, we work a lot, but we got a chance to stop and say to ourselves, okay, so how do I want to be working going forward? How do I want to structure my life, my lifestyle, and my goals, right? How do I want to do that? Do I want to do it the same way as before? It's kind of like a reset, a reboot, if you will. But this time the whole world did it. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the weeks and months ahead from the point of this audio. So the fifth big discovery was that you've got to keep your energy high. And when I mean you keep your energy high, you can't be bouncing off the walls. When I think back as to why I got sick, and I think back of what is really I told you that the scourge of the earth is overexertion. But the overexertion has an impact, and the impact it has is that you overspend your energy. And when you overspend your energy, all bets are off for every other aspect of your lifestyle. I mean, procrastination can ensue. All kinds of bad habits can ensue. It's not stemming from the fact that you lack motivation. Um, it's not stemming from the fact that granted, you may not know a lot about these subjects, but it's not because you don't know how to eat healthy food, or you can't eat healthy food. What really crushes human performance more than anything else, even your ability to be active, or your desire to want to be active, or, I'm not just talking about in fitness terms. I'm talking about, like, with your career, your family, taking extra action to grow your business, maybe potentially a creative pursuit. What distracts and holds us back from all of that at any level? A lot of times it's just you just don't have the juice to do it. At the most fundamental level, you're always making decisions based on how much energy you have at any given time. And I think this 2.5, almost 3 month time period was fantastic in the sense that it gave people a chance to rejuvenate. When you go from an 80-hour work week to a 60-hour work week, or either one of those numbers to a 40-hour work week, and you actually just work 9 to 5, people, I don't know about you, but I felt like I had a 2.5 month vacation, because it wasn't like I did that because of my routine. We were forced to do it. Like, there was nothing else to do. It wasn't like I was going to go and, put more meetings on my plate, or go schedule with more clients, or go do this or that. Like, things just stopped. And, I don't know about you, but I spent my time during this time period really battening down the hatches, addressing expenses that I no longer wanted. I mean, I looked at every aspect of my life, and we're still doing it. But I looked at every in every area of my life. How do I optimize this? Because we're in wartime right now. It's literally wartime. People are in defense mode. They're not moving forward in the sense of, like, how do I live the best life possible? They're in defense mode. They got to take care of themselves, their bodies, and their lives during a shutdown period like this. Yeah, we're wanting to get out in parks and jog and do this or that, but you know we're not taking huge stride forwards in general. Right now, we're taking care of ourselves to the best as we can. We're making sure that our incomes are moving forward. A lot of, as I said earlier, and this dovetails into the sixth big discovery, was that taking care of lives is one thing. It's an absolutely essential thing, but we have to take care of livelihoods. People are taking care of their livelihoods today, right? Making sure that you actually have a business like you had 2.5 months ago. Making sure you still have your job. Making sure that you're doing an awesome job at it. Making sure that you're helping people, and then all these new services that are popping up to help people deal with the consequences of this pandemic. So, you know, in order to do all that and to face this quote unquote new normal that a lot of people are talking about, and I agree with. I mean, I think you're going to have a definite new normal. The world we're living in is never going to be the same. I think we all got that roughly midway through March this year. Boy, 2020 has been a strange year, between Kobe Bryant and the pandemic and George Floyd's passing and the impact on our culture warranted. Um, you know, it's been quite a 2020, and we are living in a new normal. Look, basic life is generally the same, but it's got a new feel. There's cultural shifts that have taken place, new expectations that exist, um, new competitiveness due to the shutdown. You have to re-earn people's business. I mean, there's so many factors that have been impacted by COVID-19 and just the changes that have taken place this year. You got to have a lot of energy to do this, right? So you got to be living really, really well, right? You got to cope with stress in ways that do not create more stress. It's one of the reasons why I'm such a performance and lifestyle buff, because I'm up to big things in my life. I imagine if you're listening to a podcast by the name Like a Pro, you want to live well. You want to live with excellence. You want to live your best life, from your best self. And that's going to become more than just for the high achievers. Everybody's got to be living that way in the world we're living in today. To keep your to stay healthy, you have to stay energetic, to stay healthy, to be resilient, to maintain a robust immune system, because this COVID will not be the last COVID. Even though this one may be winding down, coming back, who knows? The point is it's not the last time we're going to be faced with this. And the people, by and large, who were affected were people who were older and had pre-existing conditions. Even though many younger people died, why is a topic of a whole different discussion. But pre-existing conditions is at the heart of it all, and fatigue and tiredness is a pre-existing condition. So if you want to maintain your life and a strong livelihood, you got to keep your energy high. And the last big discovery, I think, was that working from home has lost all of its stigma. I'm really happy about this, and so is Zoom. Zoom is incredibly happy because of the last 3 months. People went and bought a lot of Zoom stock. I heard a funny story yesterday about there was another company called Zoom Tech, and they went from like 250 million to 5 billion because everybody thought it was Zoom, and they actually invested into the wrong company. I have to check my facts on that, so don't fact check me on that. I'm telling you point blank that the actual numbers in that story, probably has some nuances to it, but I think it's true that it did happen. But nonetheless, Zoom has become a staple in everyone's lives. Skype's been around for 16, 17 years, and I haven't heard the word Skype once in the last 3 months. Everybody's like, hop on a Zoom call. It's really amazing. But the stigma from working at home is going to disappear. And I think that this is fantastic because, I love when leaders, worth billions of dollars, tell everybody to get 8 hours of sleep at night. They tell you to sleep well. I love that. That's fantastic. I got my daughter crying in the background here. I'm doing this podcast from my home. That's fantastic. But if you're leaving at 6 o'clock in the morning and you're getting home at 6 o'clock at night, and you haven't even touched your life yet, and then you're told to get 8 hours of sleep, you do the math on that. That's not even possible. It's literally not even possible. 12 hours out of the house, sometimes even more. Then you need at least 4 or 5 hours just to take care of life matters. You're up to 17. It's impossible. But let's say you did it perfectly. You were out of the house for 12 hours, and you did, let's say, 4 hours of life, family, kids, etc. Winding down. Usually that's not enough. That leaves you 8 hours. That would be 8 hours of total time in bed, which means you'd probably only sleep 6.5 to 7, which is the national average. I think the national average is exactly 6.5. You can't do that. It's comical to think that the way we're living and working. There's a book out there, the way we're working is not working, and it's a great book because the way we're working is not working. And I think being able to work from home and have some quality of life and take care of your life and your body and yourself as it needs to happen in between work events and not be constantly on the road and traveling into the city. And, the fact that people are even willing and able to get on a Zoom call and handle it and not be worried if your kid is crying in the background or your dog barks. I think the stigma has disappeared. When large Fortune 500 companies have, um, you know, had to do that too, that means the stigma is gone. People have had a much better quality of life. And if we're gonna change the way we live, it's not just in, something that we do individually. Everybody's got to be in this. In order for new structures in the world to come into play, for people to to not be being worked 15, 16 hours a day, going nonstop, and then by the health community being told that they need to get 8 hours of sleep, and if not, they're going to die. Right, man? It's just so overwhelming to people. We have to change the way we're working if we're going to change the way we live. Right, and we have to change the way we live while we're working. Right, it's a big cycle. And I think working from home, losing all of its stigma is a fantastic silver lining. And 25 years into the information age, since the launch of the internet, I think that it's fantastic that we're actually really starting to adopt the key technologies that make our virtual world all the more possible. So that's about it for this podcast. We talked about the big need for a break, that health is the only solution, that you can't boost your immune system. You can only really boost your performance, but that boosting your performance is a byproduct of changing, improving, and optimizing the way you live, lifestyle factors. You can choose the way you live more so than ever before because, people have now had 7 weeks, 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks away from the rigmarole and have had a chance to say, hey, how do I want to live? We have to keep our energy high. I think people have had a strong rejuvenation period, hopefully, to some degree during these past 10 weeks. Lives matter and livelihoods matter. We can't overcompensate to save lives and again, just shut our markets down for months and months and months at a time. I just don't see how our economy would be able to endure this. So just like we have to learn how to live better while we work, we have to learn how to protect ourselves while we work. You can't just stop working. So I think that's going to be one of the big silver linings that comes out of this. Me as an entrepreneur, likey that idea because I don't want to go through this again from that standpoint. And that working from home has lost all of its stigma. So therefore, we're all going to be able to create more space and time to take care of our lives, our lifestyles, and our bodies and ourselves. Right? We need that. You can't keep up this pace in the world. We can consume 6 times more information on a daily basis than we did even 20, 30 years ago, right? Do you know how much energy that takes? All this technology is great. Improvement is great. I love the age of better. I love the age of achievement that we're living in, but not if you're going to have to burn out and trade your health for success, right? You do not want to burn out. You don't want to trade your health for success. Right? You want to learn how to live a balanced and healthy, high achieving lifestyle if you're going after ambitious goals. But today, everybody's got ambitious goals. And so we're all essentially high achievers today. So you got to have the lifestyle, mindset, and skill set so that you can maintain the level of performance that you need to succeed. But in order to do that your approach better promote your energy, health, and performance. Right? Not just your productivity, your energy, health, and performance. And I think that's, I think we've come at least a big step closer. Moving forward, the number one thing, just before I finish, the number one thing that I think came out of, if I were to summarize all 7 of those points, the number one thing that I think people learned is that they got conscious about how they want to live their lives, at least to some degree. They got a little more conscious about how they want to live their lives. And that's going to be the consequences that we're all going to learn about in the coming months, which is what's the real impact of the pandemic period. So this is John Allen Mollenhauer. Again, my friends call me John Allen or by my initials Jam. You can reach me at www.johnallenjam.com. That's JohnAllenJam.com. Go there, sign up for my email list. I put out a lot of great information. You can stop back to this podcast, share it with your friends. I would appreciate that very much. Please leave a comment, and I look forward to talking with you in our next episode. Make it a great day.